And we are recording with the one and only
What's
Mr.
up, man?
Joseph Teti. Dale might be joining us. We don't know. And my neon, for anybody watching, again, I don't know how to change these lights. I just move. That's why I look like I'm in a Miami nightclub, is because I have
Dude,
no
he's kind of
fucking idea.
cool looking though.
Thank you. I have,
And it's kind of seedy looking.
yeah, no, I know. I look like I'm running like an underage prostitution ring in Miami in the 80s. I kind of, yeah, I look like I should be like a kind of a creepy roller rink kind of guy. But hey, whatever. I'll take it. It's all I got. But yeah, no, it's you and Dale did a training course for, and I did see videos of it on Instagram like 2 months ago, where I think you guys were in like a weight room and you guys were like moving around with like guns drawn or something. But could you go into that? Could you explain it? Well, I think Joe's image froze up for anybody listening. The internet's been spotty. He'll be back any second. But yeah, he and Dale did were training for, I believe, a private client. And I don't know what it was, but I saw him doing a ton of shit, like breaking out of zip ties. And one of the things I saw them doing was they're like clearing like a weight room with like pistols or something. And I think he is back. There he is.
Yeah, man. So I don't know what's going on, brother.
You're good. You're good, dude. And
Sure.
Dale's joining us.
Okay.
Uh Here he is.
We got some bad weather here actually right now, dude. It's not raining hard, but there's like a lot of thunder and lightning. So, and you know, I live in the fucking boonies.
Yeah.
So that's the
Yeah.
only drag, man, about internet here. It's just, you know, it's just
Hey,
it's a miss. So
hey, Dale, you like my creepy underage roller rink lights I got going on in here right now. I don't
Actually, I actually have the same thing at night. I got blue in here. I got
uh,
blue lights every.
all right,
Yeah,
fuck yeah. Well,
it's actually
yeah.
therapeutic. Did you know that blue light is actually therapeutic?
yeah, no, it induces like melatonin secretion in your
Yes,
brain.
yes,
Yeah.
sir.
I just don't know how to change them, so I'm just
Oh man, leave it.
yeah. Oh fuck it, I'll leave. What do I care? But yeah, uh this is the first day of new episodes in the new apartment. And so Dale, Joe is we're just about to get into. Can you guys kind of explain that, like, that client training you got? Because I saw one video and it was you two back to back in like a gym with your guns drawn. And I didn't know what the fuck it was, but I also didn't really question it because it just seems like par for the course with you guys. Like, of course Dale and Joe are in a gym with guns drawn. But like, what was that? Can we just start from there? Joe, do you want to explain that?
Well, this guy, don't his name's not important,
Sure.
but young man, we call to Dale and I, he's a young man. He's 28, super intelligent. He's got what Dale, what, 3 masters or some shit, like just a brainiac, right? But his father actually contacted us and wanted Dale and I to run a course for him, just to kind of get him up to speed for what may come in this country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Dale did most of the, talking with this gentleman, his dad. But long story short, when it came down to it, he needed 2 months for what this guy wanted. And, to be honest with you, I told Dale, I'm like, dude, they're not going to pay like what is commensurate with what 2 months of
2 months.
training. Dale. And it was literally 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week, half a day off on Sunday. It was just hit and miss because we pieced together training, bad weather and whatnot. And then shit, when I got down there, we got COVID. Fucking Dale, right? I was there a week. We both got COVID. So anyway, but yeah, dude, it was the full Monty with this guy. You name it, we did it. A little bit of everything, and it was really cool because I've never trained anybody for 2 months, not that long.
Yeah.
So I flew down to Panama City Beach, where Dale has a house, and then this guy flew in from Miami, or he drove in. He stayed at a Airbnb, and we were off and running. Gym every morning, pool, swimming, and then right in the classroom. And we did a little bit of everything. Dale did all the combatives, boxing, grappling, pistol. We did pistol carbine, tracking, Dude, it was a lot getting out of handcuffs, flex cuffs, apprehension avoidance, CQB. It was a lot. It was a very comprehensive course. No doubt he was a changed man.
Yeah. And so just for comparison, how long is y'all's training normally? Like what's like a normal client?
A week. I mean,
And that's
like you go to a shooting course or something, 3 days, 5 days, a week. That's 2 months is unheard of. I mean, I even asked Steele, have you ever heard of such a thing? He's like, no. Like,
well, so that guy had a pretty penny, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Steele. Yeah. What would you say?
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, I'm just thinking, yeah, it's he paid for 2 months worth of
Very
7 weeks.
successful young man and very successful father. Yeah.
But fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough. I mean, does that so like someone like me, y'all have met me. I'm a total idiot. I can barely tie my shoes. What can 2 months actually do from someone from baseline?
Go ahead, Dill.
Well, I did a lot. First of all, we focused on the basics, and everybody wants the high speed, advanced, sexy stuff that usually doesn't work. I have a saying, advanced techniques are the basics mastered. So that's what we focused on, was the basics. And if you can master the basics, you can, with training, experience, and intuition, build on that. And so that's what we focused on. For example, combatives. Okay, I taught them basic 1-2 punch. Okay, if you can master a 1-2 punch, you can probably win 99% of your street fights, hands down. Everything else you can build on, but you have to understand the fundamentals. For example, a fighting platform, movement of your feet, because, for example, combatives is not, it's not about how strong you are. It's your power is derived from your feet and momentum, right? So basically applying your weight and inertia behind your strikes. That's what it comes down to. So, now I got to, so like when they showed up, they thought, the key to being successful in combatives, for example, is hit as hard as you possibly can with all your power. And that lasted for about 15 seconds. And then they were too exhausted to continue. So what, the process, we took them through was, listen, speed is power. Relax. The more you relax, the faster you become. Right. So, so our approach is different. And because that we use that approach at the end, these guys were like, wow, we have been fundamentally transformed. Their life has been changed, their way of looking at just life in general, but now looking at movies and looking at actual combatives and different types of skill sets, they have a different view on it, right? They realize that Hollywood is Hollywood and Hollywood's bullshit. And so, welcome to the real world. And so I feel like, and to their, they made the comment that, they feel like, they're unstoppable at this point. They've got a good foundation to build from. And I saw it. I saw the transformation. We saw it, in everything they did. We gave them a diagnostics physical fitness test in the beginning, just kind of get a baseline for their, how many push-ups can they do, cardio, certain types of, strength exercises. And we use it as a baseline to build off of. And here's the cool part is, so like Joe said, right off the bat, we all got COVID. Literally every one of us got COVID, like out of the blue, bam, and so, but we Charlie Miked, and, I was down for probably 3 days in my bed initially. And I think I was the first one to get hit with it. And then what happened was, so by the way, for all the freaking clowns out there that thinks, ivermectin is horse paste, like that, that freaking weirdo Joe Teti and all these other liberals, ivermectin
works. Okay. That shit works.
Yeah, I took it, and within 24 hours, I was feeling better. 48 hours, I was more than halfway, and by 72 hours, I was back on my feet swinging, man. No long-term COVID shit like that, right? So, we powered right through that with the help of ivermectin. And we were able to continue the training cycle. We just made a few adjustments to the schedule, but at you know, at the end of the day, man, we saw these guys. Like, for example, I told them one of the things we talk about in our training is, without going into too many details on it, the psychosoma engineering piece of it. What does that mean? Mind body engineering. So what we tried to push on these guys was, listen, man, you can make huge exponential gains in everything you do if you just imagine it, visualize it. There's a physiology and a science that supports that, right? There's things that happen to you biologically, physiologically, psychologically, spiritually, that allow you to literally overnight start making, huge gains. And we use that, for example, that example with one of the guys. He could barely bench press. I forget what it was at this point, but his goal was, it was 225. Yep. And he couldn't get that 225, and I said, you know what? I said, I want you to imagine it. I want you to visualize it. Then we all came down with COVID. So now he can't go to the gym and work out. But after a few days, we brought him back and put him on the bench press and imagine it, and I talked him through the process. And there is a process, okay? It's not just imagination, but there's a little bit more to it than that. But he did it, and guess what? He bench pressed 225. Okay, boom.
He couldn't believe it.
Yeah. So these, so our approach is different from, all these other guys are out there, stay hard, fucking harder, faster, and more, they put all the sexy shit up front, we talk a lot about that in the training too, by the way, like, okay, for example, you go to listen, man, I've been shooting handguns most of my life. At least since I was 23 and became a Delta Force operator. All right. I'm pretty decent with a handgun, obviously. But listen, here's the reality of it. Okay. Here's the reality of being a really good shot with a handgun. So fucking what? You're probably never gonna shoot anybody with a handgun. Especially when you go out to, you go to the range, you're practicing fucking, El Presidente and the Mozambique, and two to the body, one to the head, blah, blah, blah. You're fucking shooting the balls off a fly at 100 fucking meters. It's not going to happen. So, but you know what? Guys are teaching that, and everybody thinks it's important to know that shit. Actually, it's not. What's important is mastering the fundamentals of drawing a handgun, presenting it, and shooting accurately. You don't have to shoot a fucking dime at 10 meters. Okay, you just gotta be able to put round center fucking mass or in the fucking central nervous system, right? So this is where we depart from the herd. Okay, we go into another level of training. We focus a lot on the mindset. Okay, the nervous system. Okay, the nervous system is everything. And so we go into the science of it, and that's what separates us from the gunslingers out there. The one trick ponies, the niche guys, hoorah, dude, don't quit, fucking, man, let me tell you something. You can quit. Everybody's going to quit. Here's the deal, man. We all only have so much sustained determination in our gas tank. Okay. At some point, the tank runs dry. Okay. And you're going to have to get out, and you're going to have to push that fucking car, because you ain't got to go gas in the tank if you want to keep using that vehicle to get you where you need to go. And this is where it's separate, that we separate the men from the boys, right? Is the mindset that it takes to push that car, and to push that car by yourself. Okay. Up that hill. And so therein is the difference. And, there's a lot of guys that are accomplished out there and have achieved a lot of things. And I'm not trying to, disparage what they have done or anything like that, but comparatively speaking, okay. And I'm going to go back to the Delta Force selection process. And why is that so different from any other selection process out there, to include the Navy Buds? All right. The difference is this: when a guy goes through, a candidate goes through to be a Delta Force operator, he's going through by himself. He's not going through as a group, right? He's not running through down the beach with a bunch of logs on his shoulders and ribs and fucking rolling around in sand and cold and miserable. Okay, look, dude, you could be dumb as a rock and do all that shit. Okay, I mean, really. I mean, listen. I mean, there was a time and there's still times where people have enslaved others to do stuff like that. And every day was, a serious gut check. Okay. But the difference is in Delta selection, it was understood that your body is going to give out on you. It is going to break. They're going to break it. Actually, they're gonna have you break your own body. They're just gonna tell you what to do. They're not even gonna tell you how fast to go. They're not gonna tell you what the standard is. They're just gonna say, do the best you can. All right. If you got any live brain cells, you go, well, I guess the best I can is gonna be 100% plus, because I don't know what the standard is. I don't want to do anything less than that. Otherwise, I won't make it. And so, when the body breaks, what do you got left? The mind. The mind is the only thing that's going to keep you going. And the mind's got to talk this broken body into getting up and continue to march. And that's what they're looking for. They're looking for the guy with the invincible mind, the guy with the bodybuilder marathon mind. Okay, not the bodybuilder marathon body. Okay, look, the marathon guys, the bodybuilder guys, and they're out there. They know who you guys know who they are. I'm going to mention their names. They didn't make it through Delta selection. Nope, they made excuses too. Okay, because their body broke, and they're like, oh, my body broke, so I got to get recycled. Listen, dude, I got to do it on my team. Broke two damn legs. All right, and made it through Delta selection on 2 broken legs. Didn't tell nobody. Charlie Mike duct tape his shit together, and I've seen him do it, and made it. So the moral of the story, where I'm going with all this, is it relates to the training we just did. What we try to do is instill a certain way of thinking. Okay, that's very rare. Some people do it, they don't even know they're doing it, and they're successful. What we do is we break it down to the science. There's a science that supports this. Literally, there's a science behind this. And once you understand the science of performance and what you're going through, then you can move mountains. Okay, there it is. You can move mountains. If you don't understand the science, it's going to take you a lot longer to get up that hill, if you ever get up that hill, so to speak. So anyways, this course I thought was very successful. It was kind of a gentleman's course, but it was not. Okay. And so we could have went every day, went balls to the walls, and it had been a smoke fest. I guarantee you all of us would have lasted about a week, and we'd have had to take a break, right? Yeah. We wanted to do that, but that wasn't the objective. The objective was to train these guys. So we actually kind of worked banker's hours, man. We went to the gym around 9 o'clock in the morning. We all linked up there. We had an agenda. We trained these guys on what to do, how to lift weights, diet, nutrition. We gave them certain things, some certain standards to meet. And then we let them also experiment, right? So boom, we did gym several times a week. We went to the pool several times a week. Joe did a lot of swimming with these guys, built their confidence in the pool. And then we'd come back, we'd regroup sometime after 12 o'clock, and we'd go to our classroom, and we started either the classroom portion of instruction supported by hands-on and practical applications, right? And we covered, a whole myriad of topics, to include things like lock picking, making improvised detection devices, high speed and technical driving, all the weapons craft stuff, edge weapons, blunt weapons, combatives, grappling, and all of this was oriented towards what is really practical. Okay, well, I'm not out there teaching Taekwondo kicks, all right, and karate chops. All right, I'm going to teach what I know works. Yeah. Okay, and what I've proven that it works. And so I present an eclectic system. It's a combination of things that actually work. I string them together using the psychosoma engineering process that I've just talked about. So it's all fluid and flows together, and it makes more sense, and it helps tune the body. We had a great time towards the end. We had some interesting requests from the students. For example, the reality is they came to us because they had never been challenged in their life. Their whole life, has been, they've been coddled, and they admitted it. Particularly one fellow, he admitted that, he had a coddled life. And there's no shame in that. He was born into it. Can't help that, right? So, and so he wanted to test himself. Not only did he want to test himself, but it was actually his father that called me first. And originally I thought the training they wanted was, basically the online, psychosoma engineering program that we offer. But after talking about it, he goes, well, I'd really be more interested in having my son come and live, in your area, get an Airbnb or whatever, and actually do training with you, right? And I said, to what end? He goes, well, he goes, as Joe mentioned earlier, we live in a very feral world, and it's getting worse and worse, and people are becoming more and more concerned. This guy was actually, he was Russian American, Jewish, very wealthy, conservative, out of Miami, and so and his entire family has kind of seen what's happening in our country, and sort of joined the military to learn these skills. Which, by the way, he indicated, and I have to agree. The military has become woke. We're not sure if that's the place to go for training anymore, at least to protect America the way for what it is. But not to get political, but and why would a guy with 3 master's degree working on his PhD that's got millions of dollars at the age of 28 want to join the army, right? So, so it's better to come to us, pay the money, but what he wanted was to test his mettle, so to speak. So, besides training him, he wanted to see how tough he is. And by the way, that seems to be a common theme in all these trainings that I do, the hands-on training. Most of my clients, when I do this, are very wealthy. They're men that have spent their entire lives making money and building businesses, and they actually live through guys like me and Joe vicariously, going, I wonder what it would have been like. And so we offer them that experience. Of course, it's never going to be the same, but we give them we let them touch the magic for a second. It's like, okay, here's kind of some things that you can take home with you. We'll give you a gut check, and now it becomes a skill set that hopefully will either help you or save you someday, or save your family. And 2, it becomes a conversation piece when you're sitting around the boardroom, right? And talking business. So and so this is what the request was, hey, can you put me through the ringers a little bit? Like sure. What his request was, well, like maybe hang me from my hands, and kind of torture me. And I'm like, well, dude, no, we're not going to hang you from your hands. In about 5 minutes, we'll have to amputate those because, that's not how it works, And well, I know what he wanted. Joe, Joe and I discussed it at length. It's like, we walk a fine line. The fine line is, training the guy, giving the client what he wants, but also the liability that goes with that,
Right,
and if we put this guy, right, we've all the good stuff we've done is wiped out. And so it became a balancing act. We did some thinking about it, some planning around it, and I'm not going to reveal what we actually did, but we honored his request. Nobody got hurt. He had the shit scared out of him, and and so and it didn't take us long, about an hour and a half. Actually, it was an all-day event, but it culminated with about an hour and a half of a horror show. And we finally decided that at this point we need to go ahead and index it, because we continue to let this go at this rate. We're gonna create monsters, man. And so, and psychologically impaired people, I don't know. So we ended it, and look, it wasn't, I'm not gonna go into what we did, but he got what he asked for, and he enjoyed it, he appreciated it.
Yep.
After the stress wore off, after the shock wore off, and he was able to digest everything, he's like, okay, thanks a lot, man. That was awesome. So we did things like kill classes.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
All you PETA people out there, yep, we killed some. Yep, and we ate them. Yep, we tried to make mittens out of them. But like these guys, as the question was posed: have you ever killed anything? Anything? No. There you go. So yeah. How you gonna survive in this world if you don't know if you can kill something? And everybody out there thinks, well, if I had to kill something, I can kill some bullshit. Yeah. Right? Bullshit. It's not part of the human condition. All right. There's plenty of studies out there to support that. That it's not. Read for example, On Killing by David Grossman, right? He goes quite in depth on that. I think it's a pretty good read, but there's other studies out there to support that as well. And my personal and Joe's personal experience. Look, I've been down range, exchanging lead with fucking people. And you look to your left and right, and there's just some guys posing, posturing, actually not getting it because there's a natural aversion to killing. Okay.
Sure.
If it wasn't, we would be killing each other all day long. Right. So it's something that's got to be, with the exception of a very small percentage, like 1%. Okay. If you took 100 men, okay, soldiers, probably only a fraction of those are actually going to kill, okay, naturally, without any training. The rest have to be conditioned, okay, to the point where they have to be conditioned to kill and have to see their target as something that's other than human, right? They have to dehumanize the target. That's why we use things like green silhouettes and IPSC targets, right? Because that's how we refer to the enemy. You know, there's a target over there. There's a target over there. You know, we don't say, hey, there's a man over there. There's a human over there. Shoot him, right? So it's a psychological aspect to this whole thing as well. And so, anyways, the point is, you know, we basically had to pop their freaking cherry, and we took them out to the field, and we did some field craft with them a little bit. You know, really, it was just immerse them into the field, which, by the way, was down there where I live in Florida, and it was very hot, humid, a lot of mosquitoes. You know, it was pretty cool location where we were at. But we took them out there and put a little bit of a backpack on them. Didn't walk them hard or far, but just give them the whole experience of building basically a bivouac site, right? It wasn't even a hide site. It's like, hey, here's how you put up a poncho hooch, you know, here's some recommendations, living in the field tactically. You know, they came out with, which was funny, like a red and white polka dotted hammock, right? and he's like super lightweight pink and blue freaking ponchos. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, take that shit down. You're sleeping on the ground, right? And so, you know, these are things. So you got to imagine, these are guys, and both of them are 28 years old. The real irony of it is one of them is actually a Catholic priest going through the seminary, and the other guy's a wealthy Jewish guy, and they were roommates, right? And so, you know, they're good, solid dudes. They're like scary smart, man, like super scary smart, and they're both motivated. They both didn't mind, you know, mixing it up, right? So that was the upside to it too. So we got some smart guys that don't mind getting, you know, banged up, and they don't mind, you know, doing some hard stuff, you know, and so it was a good fit, to a point where it was almost like any group of alpha males. When you put a bunch of alphas together, especially when they don't know each other, you go through the 5 phases of team building, right? The first one is forming, and the second one is storming. There's this everybody's jousting for position and jostling for position, you know, in this hierarchy, you know, which was already established, right? But they didn't know that. They hadn't occurred to them yet. It's like, you guys are just students, you're not in charge. And they were trying to work it out between them. But anyways, we spent a little bit of time in the field, and then as a surprise, we had the delivery truck come with a couple rabbits, and it's like showtime, you know, freaking, you know, and we coached him on how to, you know, how to humanely kill an animal.
Sure.
You know, how to basically, you know, skin it and prepare it, and you know, tan the hides and everything goes along with that. But the caveats, again, you know, was one, do not make the animal suffer. Okay, do not make them. It's got to be a clean kill the first shot. First shot. Of course, they boned that right off the bat, right? So killing, for example, and yet they had to kill the animal with their bare hands. Okay, I didn't give them a knife or a gun or a club. It's like, you're going to kill it with your bare hands because maybe that's all you got.
Sure.
Okay, and not only that, it's faster. Okay, I think if you do it properly, right? So
what was that, breaking the neck?
Well, basically, you know, basically what they're going to do is break the spine, but there's a way to do it that requires some inertia. And so, and it's like, you know, don't hold back.
Yeah.
Do not hold back. Let her, you know, go for the fences, right? And so he did. They both screwed it up, you know. It took him a couple of shots to get it done, and nothing worse than hearing a rabbit squeal, right? And so, and as soon as that happened, Joe just lost his shit. He goes, "All right, you two fuckers, let's go." And we took him down to the where we live is kind of like a bayou off the coast of Florida. inlet waterway, salt water. There are alligators in there, and it's kind of marshy. And he took them down there and put them in the water for a while, and then rolled them in the sand, made sugar cookies out of them, and then ran them back. And they had to finish. They had to finish the task that night, right? Which included building a fire. Okay, using improvised techniques, and then once they did that, cooking the animal and eating it. So and then it rained, which made it even more fun.
It was Tom. I tell you, it was an eye opener for both of them, and it's funny because sometimes I'll look at some of this stuff and really not think like, man, these guys have never experienced something like this. It's something that I've experienced or Dale has, where it may not seem to be a really big deal at the time, but this is the majority of the people out there. They've never done some of this stuff, and you kind of take it for advantage, like, really? And you start thinking about it, and it's like, well, why would they've ever done that?
Yeah.
They had no, like, I'll give you a perfect example. One night, we took them for a scout swim around all these big ass boats in this bay. And Dale and I reconned it one night. We went out having a few beers, and I mean, you can see sharks, fins coming out of the water at night. Like, fuck, like straight up, like. And we told them, we're like, hey man, there's sharks in the water. It is what it is. So we go down there and we get in the water, and I could tell once we got in the water, they were a little nervous. We're around these big boats, we're swimming in between them, right? They've never done it before, and sure enough, dude, we go through these, we zig and zag and zig and zag and zig and zag, and we're coming back. And as we're coming back, right in front of us, dude, I mean, like maybe 5 feet, fin comes right out of the water. Oh yeah, dude, right. I said, y'all saw. I look back, and their eyes look like two fucking teacups, man. And I said, it's all good. Just relax, take yourself to a happy place. But they thought that was the coolest shit, because it was something they had never done before. They'd never been in that kind of water, and it was nasty, dude. It was like oil was in the water and sludge, and it was pretty nasty. But one thing is funny, just to go back to the gym, and it really has nothing to do with the training. It just has to do with alpha males and like, who in the fuck are these two guys? So we go to this gym, and of course you go in there and you're getting eye screwed by every person, and they're like, who are these two guys, right? Dale's got a very unique look. He's got a great physique, and so we're always getting eye screwed by these dudes. And you can see people snickering and saying shit because Dale's out there freaking knocking the shit out of the freaking punching bag, and I'm out there fucking doing shit with my knife, and people are like, who in the fuck are these guys, right? I had it. I got so fucking mad. I was just like, you know what? All right, you motherfuckers, put your money where your mouth is. So I went to the manager. You can ask Dale. And he's a former Marine. And I said, you know what? I said, we're only here for a little while, and I'd like to put out a fitness challenge to everybody at the gym. And I told him what it was. And he's like, oh, I don't know, man. Dude, we were there 2 months. Not one fucking big mouth answered the call. Not one. Dude, it just, it was so funny. And I didn't plan on doing that. I just kept telling Dale, like, one time I went to the gym by myself, and I'm like, hey, remember those two dudes? And they're like, yeah. It's like just snickering, pointing, that kind of shit. And I'd had it, dude. I'm like, all right, fuck everybody in here. You know what? Let's see what you got. And yeah, nobody. Too much. And ask Dale. I was literally going up to guys like, hey, stud, you look like you're in good shape. Right, Dale, am I right or wrong? Hey, yeah. Let's do a fitness challenge. How about it? Hey, only take a dick out of your mouth so I can hear what you're saying first, okay? You know what? And then motherfuckers, I was so pissed off, dude. Oh my God. And this one guy's like, yeah, I'll do it. And I'm like, what is it? And I'm like, well, let's start off with like a 2 or 3 mile swim, and he's like, huh? I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, well, I'm not that good of a swimmer. I'm like, next. Like, anyway, yeah, man, it was pretty funny. But
you did say it in your book. Actually, both of y'all have book, shameless plug. Dale Comstock, American Badass, Joe Teti, Lone Operator. Joe, you said it in your book about approaching that guy at like a diner or something. And you're like, and I know I have crazy eyes. And you just when you did it, like, hey, stud, I do imagine you going up to someone at the gym and they're just like, who the fuck is this
I
guy?
went up to
Hey,
half a dozen guys, dude. I went up to half of, guys that got the Ferrari bodies, right?
yeah.
They got the Lamborghini bodies, but they got jack shit under the hood.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's all
Just like Dale was saying, you're like, yeah, you may look the part. Yeah, okay, you can bench 400 pounds. Okay, that's cool, but like, really, what does that mean?
It doesn't do it.
It
No,
really
no,
doesn't mean anything.
it means
Like,
absolutely
it doesn't. At least to me, it doesn't. I'm all about functional fitness
yeah.
and cardiorespiratory endurance and all that shit. The like kind of total package thing. But yeah, dude, I just had it with that place, man. After about a week, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna put a fucking, I'm gonna nip this shit in the bud right now. And one guy was a former pro football player. He was this black dude. He was very, very in good shape. I mean, you can just tell he was in spectacular shape. And one of the guys that we were training is like, dude, that's the guy right there that said he'd do it with you. I'm like, bring his ass over here right now. And I told him what I wanted to do. He's like, nah, I think I'll pass.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But anyway, it's all good. But dude, it was great to work with Dale for, 2 months. And you know what, dude, you'd be surprised when you train people, you actually start remembering things like, oh shit, like things you forgot. But as you're teaching, like we're doing the tracking piece and talking about the nuances of tracking and like all these little details that you just start regurgitating, just like, oh yeah, you always put the track between you and the sun, and just like little nuances. That's what they really got off on, was the detail stuff.
Sure. Well, that's what I was going to ask you guys is there anything you learned? And I know that's kind of like a hallmarky question, like, and what did the teacher learn? But really, like, when you're doing these things, are there things that either that you learn in the art of teaching someone, or does it sort of reawaken something? Do you remember something that maybe you haven't dusted off in a while?
Both. For me, both. First off, I don't have Dale's pedigree when it comes to combatives. I know basics stuff, but training with him and watching the grappling and the boxing, because we would hit the bag at the gym, then go back to the classroom, and we had mats. And so just the little nuances of combatives, boxing and grappling that I just wasn't aware of because of Dale's pedigree, I learned stuff. So it was also, and yeah, absolutely, teaching, when you start getting into the weeds and, we're both passionate teachers. It's just, you keep regurgitating stuff and it just starts coming up. And I mean, to credit the Dale and I mean, like, we didn't have notes and crib notes. Like, it was just like, all right, we're teaching a class on tracking, boom, off and running. And so it was both for me. I don't want to speak for Dale, but definitely both for me.
Well, my best teachers are my students. I learned something from every one of them. I don't care where I'm doing, if I'm coaching, performance coaching, hands-on coaching, they're my best teachers because and I tell all my students, this is a two-way street, right? Like Joe said before, there's no experts. If you're an expert, if somebody says you're an expert, probably get away from them, right? Because you're a perpetual, you should be a perpetual student. There's always something to learn, right? And there is always something to learn. And times change, things change, principles change. What we thought was a paradigm, starts to shift. Like, oh shit. So and so if you're really a good instructor, you'll always be aware of that and be looking for those nuances and those changes. But yeah, what I learned from my students oftentimes, well, for example, these guys, okay, like I said, these guys were like scary smart. And they were saying things that I'm like, look, I got a pretty high IQ and advanced degrees. And I'm like, wow, okay. They're talking about things that I'm not familiar with, but as I start listening to them, I'm like, wow, that is some really very deep, some very deep and interesting stuff they're saying, on so many levels. And it wasn't like they had to really kind of dig for the information. It just came spewing out of their mouth like shit, and so I learned from, there's a lot I learned from that. I also learned from students when, They do good things and bad things, or they'll do something I never saw before. I go, you know what? Damn, I didn't. That's the first. That's the first. Okay, and so suddenly I got another experience to put it, in the lexicon there, and so yeah, I always learn, and I also found this is what's really cool for me is the more I teach, the more I learn, because what happens is as I'm teaching, okay, when you teach somebody, when you're training somebody, for example, online, right, and you're giving a lecture or something, what it makes you do, your thought process, it slows down where you really have to analyze what you're saying, how you're going to say it. And as you start saying it, all of a sudden you start, it's almost like mapping. All of a sudden you think of something else related to that and go, oh, but this, you start tying things together, right? It's really, it's a reticulated system, right? So everything starts becoming interconnected, right? And before you know it, the more you do this, the more connections you make, and the more you start making associations with different experiences, then all of a sudden you start realizing there's a commonality there. And now it makes it even more interesting to teach the topic, because now you can, instead of being very linear, you can add a lot of stuff to it. That makes any sense. So I learned by teaching intuitively. I start thinking of other things. And then I start researching these other things. And then all of a sudden I see the relationships, the possible relationships to the topic I'm teaching. And therefore my knowledge starts growing and growing and growing. I'm teaching myself more and more by teaching other people. Man, I tell you what, when I first started coaching, I mean, when, the performance coaching online 5.5 years ago, my curriculum was maybe 8 hours, and and I had a small set price, and it was very, my POI, my plan of instruction was, very regimented, and then as it's grown over the 5.5 years, my coaching, that 8 hours has expanded easily into 20 hours. It could be lots more, but I have to limit it, right? Because I can only, charge so much for my time per student. But and the reason it started growing is I started researching more information, or I came across something else like, oh, I didn't know that, but this fits perfectly into this. Oh, and I see the relationships of all this stuff, and suddenly my course is growing and growing and growing. And now it's going from, course 101, to 501, it's like just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And now I'm at the point where I've got to segment and chop things up and go, okay, I just offer this piece or this piece or this piece, right? So yeah, the upside to teaching people, training people is I learn from them, either the good and the bad, or they teach me something that I didn't know. And what's really cool is when they know something about my subjects that I'm teaching and they add to it, it's like, oh, they know something too, right? Like, oh, okay. That's the best
something to the recipe.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
It's like I learned something. And you can't be so arrogant that you don't want to learn, or you try to shoot down, or try to counter their assertions. No, man, be humble and go, you know what, thanks a lot, man, that's great information, I'm gonna research that some more. That is really the true strength of a teacher. A good teacher is they can do that. If they can't do that, they're not doing that, or they're coming up with reasons why your theory is wrong. Right. They're probably not a good teacher. They're not even a good student.
What you said about the process of explaining things that you already know, and you have to carefully map out what you're saying. I used to discover that all the time in college, studying organic chemistry or biochemistry or physics or something. Even just instead of going through flashcards and being able to recite the definition, even just something like turning the cards around and seeing the definition and saying what word it is, or going through a chapter backwards, or anything at all, you'd start to, I guess the best way to explain it is like taking different routes around town, and you do it enough and you start to realize, you're like, oh, you can cut through this parking lot, get to Walmart, and then come out over there. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, what other shortcuts are there? And then you start relearning this whole thing. And then when you do that, it's not just learning it more. You start to see different patterns, and you start to see, hey, all the lights turn green this way at this time. And hey, if you see a bus coming out of there, fuck that, go through this parking. And those things do make you become a better teacher, but it's because you are constantly in the learning phase. And I think, Dale, I think you nailed it. You cannot be so arrogant to say, I know it all. That's
And Tom, you know, it was really funny.
Yeah.
Dale's, I guarantee he's going to start laughing when I say this. But so about 3/4 through the way, maybe halfway through the course, we told them, we need you to come up with a cover for status, cover for action for the next part of the course, right? And so, and we explained it to them what that was, and they're like, okay. So we did the surveillance, counter surveillance piece, which was great. They actually did a very, very good job. We had radios. They communicated great. They did an excellent, excellent job. Well, the very last night where where we hemmed this guy up and pretended that he was a hostage, his cover for status and the other guys was so good, they had fucking business cards made up in a website.
Fuck yeah.
I bullshit you not. Dale and I were like, what the fuck, man? Like, you know what? And that was cool because it told Dale and I that we did our job, that they got it. Like, they're like, okay, this shit can get really, really deep. And they, no joke, had fake business cards made up with fake names, with a real cover for status, cover for action, why they were in Panama City Beach, Florida. And they even threw up like a landing page website.
Fuck
it's like, yeah, man, look right here. Here's our website right here. And you're like, what the fuck? You know, like, that was pretty badass. So, yeah, it was, we threw a lot of curveballs at these guys. Like one day, and this was all planned out. We were the pool where we swam was about 10 miles from Dale's residence. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I just told Dale, I said, one day we're going to go to the pool and you're leaving and we're running home. And so the one day, you know, hot as balls out, we swam for about 30 minutes and we were swimming with fins on. So we swam about 30 minutes and, you know, just walked out to the car casually. And I said, yeah, man, just put your stuff in the back of your car and come over here. And they came over and said, well, guess what? The Exville bird just fucking left. So we're running home. You should see the look on her face, dude. And at that time, we had another guy. His name's Mike. Big dude, former Marine, really good shape. He was with us for part of the training. And we hoofed it back, dude. 10 miles back to Dale's house. And like I said, it was about 92 degrees out, hot as shit. But it just, when you can make somebody do something like that, they probably never ran that far or it moved that far in that kind of heat. What you've done is just you've given them an experience that they can go back into their Rolodex and go,
they can draw.
You know what? I've done this before. Fuck it, I'll walk home. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, is giving somebody an experience that they can pull out and go, you know what? I've done this before. It's not a big deal. I've swam in the ocean at night around sharks. It gives you that confidence to do it again. You know,
you push the parameters in your own mind of what you quote unquote know is possible. Like, I know I can do this. I know I can do that. And once you do it, even if you only do it once, you might be like, I don't want to do that again, but you're like, I know I can.
You've created, like, and this, we talked about this in depth. You've created that neural pathway.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I've done it. I know what it feels like. I know what it smells like, et cetera, et cetera. You know, and that's powerful, man. For people that have never experienced certain things and you give them that experience on a silver platter, that's really priceless.
Yeah.
It really is, you know?
Yeah. You got to wonder then, you know, if you're talking to these guys and they're that intelligent and they, you know, they want to be challenged, you got to wonder, and this is kind of some like hippy dippy new age, but like, it almost seems like they're y'all in like a parallel life. Like, y'all went the special forces route and they went the multiple degrees entrepreneurial shit.
Right.
But it seems like you all kind of have that same core, push it to the nth degree and then push it some more. They did it in business. You guys did it in the most, you know, dangerous field in existence. It's almost like a weird It's like a football player and a basketball player meeting, and it's like, oh, I could be you in another life.
Right.
That's kind of an
But you know
odd.
what, Tom? It made these guys. There's no doubt in my mind. It made them more formidable business people.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because you just weaponize these guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You weaponize their brain, how to think, how to be aggressive, how to do this, da da da, and look at things differently, and that separates them from the pack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It gives them, and we were always talking about that 1% advantage, 1% advantage, right? That's all it may take is 1%, and you just won.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool, man. I had a great time, and I think that I just wish more people would take advantage of it, and not trying to pitch what Dale and I do, but just doing something that's unequivocal, that if you've never done anything like that, fucking go do it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, whether you want to go skydiving or scuba diving or climbing, whatever the fuck it is, do something unequivocal as a man, that you can check a block and it gives you that, that shot of like, yeah, freaking alpha male shot, right? Like, that's powerful stuff, man. I mean, I think it is.
Yeah.
And it's waning, it's starting to wane in our society, has been for a while now. Over, the last couple of decades, the whole feminism, toxic masculinity bullshit that's out there, men are becoming more emasculated. Sometimes they're self-emasculating because they don't want to be threatening or in any way offensive, it's like we're losing that. And unfortunately, there's a lot of women that are pushing back, go, no, we want masculine men, and there's no such thing as a toxic man or toxic masculinity, right? No more than there's toxic women, or toxic feminists, right? So but anyways, we're living in a world where, for example, one of the students who is the Catholic priest, he was actually one of my coaching clients for the last couple of years. And when he called me initially and he told me he's going through the seminary to be a priest, I'm like, okay, and what are your objectives? He goes, my objective is to become a Green Beret. I'm like, okay, so say Hail Mary and kill him and stuff. Okay, so got it. So he did. He joined the army, and he went in to be a Green Beret. And then COVID came along and he refused to take the vaccine. Look, the guy that wants to be a Catholic priest, I'm pretty sure he's got religious grounds to say no. Well, they booted. They kicked him out. They booed him. I know. And so, here we've lost a guy that really wanted to be a Green Beret, conservative, all-American. His father was a fighter pilot. I know his father. And so, so we got this guy that's frustrated to some degree, and he wants to do these manly things. He wants to join the wolf pack, and so, but guess who's keeping him from doing that? The weaklings in this country. The weaklings are keeping them from doing it. They said, no, you got to take a vaccine if you want to be a Green Beret.
Yep.
And so, think about that for a minute in context. The whole context of that, right? We got the weaklings of our society dictating to the sheepdogs whether they could be a sheepdog or not if they don't take the vaccine, because they're afraid of something that's not going to probably kill them. Yeah. Okay. So not to digress on that topic, but the point is, guys are losing less opportunities. Young men are losing less opportunities to, stretch their wings, and run with the wolf pack. It's being taken away from them. I was listening to a couple of these different like podcasts and things like that. But the prevailing thought is, if the prevailing thought seems to be, let's get the masculine men, let's get the sheepdogs, let's get the guys that say, no, I'm not taking the vaccine. No, I'm not tolerating this shit. No, I don't believe in binary pronoun bullshit. All right. They got to get rid of those guys, because those guys like us are gatekeepers. Mm-hmm. And we're not allowing these others with this agenda to get through the gate. We're standing in their way. They got to get us out of the way. So it becomes, a situation where you have the control and the controllers. but you have no one in the middle that's basically the referee or the mediator, right? That's us, and we're becoming a smaller and smaller minority. And fortunately, a lot of guys are starting to see that, and a lot of young men are reaching out, going, "What do? I don't want to be the controlled, and I don't necessarily want to be a controller. I just want to be able to control my own life, not everybody else's, right?" And so, there's no real outlets for that anymore. Look what happened to the Boy Scouts. Holy shit!
Oh man.
So suddenly it became the whatever Scouts, right? But the Girl Scouts get to keep the Girl Scouts. I don't think boys can be Girl Scouts. I don't think they can, not yet, anyways. But with the other way around. So we're taking all these institutions and bodies away from men. These are gogis, if you will, where boys can become men, and go through some kind of a christening, if you will, and it's being taken away because everybody's been trained to believe that if you can scare people, right, then you can reassure them with, "I'll give you safety," right? And so that's where we're at. Let's scare the hell out of everybody. They're so scared now. They're scared of the toxic males, right? They're just scared of the MAGA Republicans. If we can get them all scared, then we can offer them a cure, a safety, right? We can save you, but you got to give something up for that, right? And there's more of the fearful. There's more sheep in this world than there are, wolves and sheepdogs, at the end of the day. So I'm in a business. So when I wrote my book, American Badass, not trying to put a plug in, but
I don't care.
I remember I was on the set for NBC with Chris Kyle, the American Sniper. We were talking, I saw his book. I actually did not know he wrote the book, American Sniper. And I remember having a conversation with him, go, "Damn, dude, didn't know you wrote a book." And he goes, "Yeah, I kind of wrote it, not, I got a ghostwriter, but, I said, that's pretty freaking cool, And so I remember turning around, getting on my cell phone, calling my management team, go, "Hey, I got to write a book." And I remember having the conversation with them was, the book has got to be this. I said, I don't want the book to be all about me, even though it's an autobiography, which is funny because on Amazon, some chick gets on and said, "I didn't like the book. The whole book was just about him, blah, 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 blah." It's like, that's what an autobiography is, you freaking moron.
Bitch,
So,
it's a book about Dale Comstock.
Oh my
by
God.
Dale Comstock.
But even though it's not a biography, what I always tell people, the book is about you as much as it's about me, right? Particularly men, particularly young men. That was my audience that I was kind of trying to drill in on it, because I recognize even back then, our youth, our men, particularly our young men, are losing their way. They're becoming emasculated. They don't want to walk outside in the rain and get their hair wet because their hair's going to get wet, right? They don't play street football. Dude, I see it now where dudes are not even looking at girls anymore. It's like, dude, there's some hot little young girls over there, and these guys are totally ignoring them. I see that globally, internationally. I see that where I'm at right now. And I made a comment about that to some friends the other day. I go, what's going on here? Look at these beautiful girls. There's a whole bunch of them, and these dudes are totally oblivious to them. They're all into their phones and and freaking weird shit. And something's going on in this world, and I think it's a group think, an action of the group think, right? So I think people are being inculcated, brainwashed in a certain way of thinking. And it's like, this is right and this is wrong, when in fact it's vice versa. It's wrong to look at women. It's wrong to flirt with girls, right? It's like, why? How did that become wrong? Right? It's our nature. I mean, that's part of our mating ritual, right? How do you meet someone that you can fall in love with and marry them if you're afraid to say anything that might be misconstrued as some type of a sexual innuendo, or you're flirting with me, even at the workplace? Why is a workplace out of bounds for, I see an attractive woman that's single, and I go, "Hey, I know we're working together, but, maybe after work we can go have dinner." What's wrong with that? Yeah. Right? But now suddenly it's like becoming an evil sin. It's just, it's like, what is going on in our world, man? And, and again, it plays into this whole idea that they want everybody to be equal. Right. So now we don't have men and women. We have, what do we call it? Birthing people. We have people. You know, they don't breastfeed, they chest feed, all this weird shit, because what they're trying to do is make us all the same, right? All the same. On one hand, all the same, but on the other hand, they tie us into these identity politics. We're being grouped. You know, you're a white male, and so if you're a white male, you're a racist, and you've got white privilege. And so maybe I'm not that guy. Maybe I never had privilege, which I didn't. I might be white. I'm far from racist, as you guys know my background, my history. But because I'm white, I'm all of a sudden put into a group of racists, misogynists, right, and privileged. And so, and this is the play out there, and this is the play by the elite on the top, the controllers, which are very few, but they're on top, right? And so it's a weird thing. I know we're kind of getting way off from where we started, but I think it goes. Where I was going with this, I guess, originally was we got to get our men back. We got to get our young men back. We got to get them back to John Wayne. We got to get them back to street football. We got to get them back to fist fights on the playground over girls. That's where we got to get back to, man. That's where we got to get back to, because that's where our enemies are back to. That's what our enemies are doing. Okay.
Well, that's what I was gonna say is ultimately, if we don't get back to it, someone will. You can pussify America as much as you want. You can nerf it. You can make it genderless and remove all masculine traits, and you can probably continue to do it. But it is a closed. It's not a closed system. We're not in a vacuum. You can completely remove it, but that doesn't stop another country from doing it. And in natural selection gives no fucks. So it doesn't matter if an entire society outlaws toxic masculinity, the more toxic culture is going to come invade and bulldoze you, and they won't give a fuck. They won't recognize your laws. No one ever stopped an invasion because it was illegal. The Polish didn't tell Hitler, what you're doing is illegal. No, a wall of tanks came through and raped your countryside. Japan told, they didn't say, hey, your fire bombs are bad. No, we kept doing it with impunity. So ultimately, it does matter. But for anyone thinking that if we just eradicate it here, you won't, because another nation will come and fill this. It's just natural. It gives no fucks. It will come out eventually. And another nation that hasn't gotten rid of it will come and bulldoze you, and rightfully so. So,
Yep, I agree. Hey, on a good note, Dale, you're Mr. DeSantis down in Florida.
Oh yeah,
man, Marco Rubio.
I don't know if you saw it or not. Dale's in Indonesia now, but he's a rock star, man. I didn't mean to go off on a tangent. This is kind of like we didn't know what the fuck we are going to talk about.
Oh no, no. Well, as always, I make it up as I go.
I texted Dale and said, "Hey, man, DeSantis won, and that dude's a rock star, man. He's a credit to what he does. So, but I just,
Florida officially is red now. Even in Miami, the Hispanic population, in large part, voted red this time. Look, here's what's funny, right? If you look at the border of Texas, okay, a Democrat won that area again. Now think about the demographics, right? So why would the people in the southern border of Texas vote for a Democrat? Open borders, because most of them are illegal aliens or related to them, and so it serves their purpose, to have a guy like that keep these borders open so we can bring more Mexicans or illegal aliens in, right? Not just Mexicans, but whereas on the side of the Cubans, right, they're like, hey, we've been down this road in Cuba and we don't want to go down this road no more, and we see what's going on, and they said no, right? So which is kind of interesting. And comparatively speaking, Cubans are not Mexicans. Mexicans are not Cubans. And so, but nonetheless, maybe they're the Hispanic race ultimately, but it's a different mindset, which I really find them interesting too. Is I find that Hispanics tend to be culturally and religiously more conservative, anyways. I think I mentioned on one of the podcasts, I don't know if it was this one, but when I was working out in San Francisco, at one of the retail stores out there doing some security work, what I noticed was you could have at least 70 shoplifters a day, easily, stealing thousands and thousands and thousands of of merchandise in your face because they knew they couldn't be stopped, right? You could steal up to $900 worth of merchandise before it even becomes a felony. If anybody's even willing to arrest you, which nobody was because nobody wanted to take you to court and litigate because it costs more money for the corporations to send lawyers, blah, blah, blah. It was a big freaking scam. So you could literally go in and steal all you wanted every day, multiple times, nothing was going to happen. It was that free. But what I noticed was I started looking at the demographics, who was doing all the stealing and who was not doing any stealing. I looked and everybody came in there, white, black, Arabs, Hispanic, Asians. What I found was the two races that didn't steal almost, in fact, I can't remember one time where any Hispanic stole anything. Not one time. Not one time. I only remember one time an Asian person stole something. It was a woman, an old Chinese woman stole a purse. That was the only time. Okay. Outside of that, everybody else was stealing like it was going out of style in your face. And so, I realized, well, what is the difference? Why does some groups steal more than other groups, right? White people just stole as much as black people. Another group that didn't steal anything was Arabs, by the way. I forgot to mention. There was one Arab came in at, I don't know where he's from, but he was definitely Arab. And he threatened me, Allah Akbar stuff, I said, whatever, bitch. I said, I'll turn you into UBL too also, so, but I had to look at it and I was like, okay, there were people that had money who were stealing. People were coming with babies and puppies and dogs in their hands, black and white, and stealing. It's like, what's going on here, right? So it tells me something about there's maybe a breakdown in culture. I think Americans, that've been in America the longest have lost their culture or losing their culture. They're losing their morality. I've literally had people tell me it was okay. It's okay for me to steal. This company's got plenty of money. You got plenty of money, and I'm like, huh? I had somebody come in and accost me one day, black woman. She started off with right away with, you're protecting stolen property. I said, I'm sorry. She goes, you're protecting stolen. This is stolen land. I go, what? She goes, yeah, this land was stolen. And then this turned into, and I'm like, ma'am, that's whatever. I can't talk to you about this. I'm on duty. She didn't let it go. This thing erupted into this whole thing because suddenly now I'm a racist, rapist, murderer because I'm white and blah, blah, blah. And this got really insane, man. I was like, these people are crazy out here. And that wasn't the first time either, right? So we got a problem culturally in our country, but back to Joe's point, I'm happy to see that Florida has got some common sense. I was in Florida the entire time. I've been there since 2007, and we're like, COVID? What's COVID? What are you talking about, COVID? Mask? What do you mean mask, right? Kind of life went on, Yeah, we suffered some because of the federal mandates and stuff a little bit, but most people just blew it off and said, F Joe Biden, and we just did what we do. And Florida came out pretty good because of that. Because one, obviously DeSantis was, at the head of the wheel. But how's that going to look for the future? Who knows, man? At least it looks like right now, anyways, we're going to probably win the House and the Senate. At least now we can kind of like just freaking stonewall Biden until he's done. That actually old feeble fart thinks he's going to run for election again. It's like, and there will be people that will vote for him. They're just so. How do you vote for Fetterman? How does anybody vote?
Dude,
I want to know. I want to see what kind of people voted for him.
Yeah, he won. That blew me away. He's actually, believe it or not, he's the mayor of Braddock. I lived in Turtle Creek, which was 5 miles down the road from Braddock. And I don't know if you saw his debate with Dr. Oz. Did you?
Yeah. Yeah. The guy's dead on his feet, man. He's totally brain dead. But that speaks volumes about the people that voted for him. If they're that naive, that dumb, that intellectually deficient, that you look at a guy like that and you think he's a worthy to take care of you. Here's a guy that said he's going to release 1/3 of the felons. Okay, violent felons out there. All right. The stuff this guy is espousing is like so counterintuitive. Anybody with any moral responsibility, moral sense, cares about our children and our society will go, no, that's a non-starter. This whole, even Oprah Winfrey supported this guy. Can you believe? She goes, well, he's such a humanitarian and believes in, giving people second chances and shit. Bullshit, man. That's what you know what they call those? Recidivists. All right. When they do it again and again and again, that's what these people are. Okay. And that's what they're going to become.
They keep calling him the common man. He's a common man. He's one of the people, you know, like, and he may be, but he's definitely deficient. I'm not trying to make fun of the man at all, but I think he had a stroke at one time, didn't he? Did he not?
Yeah, he had a stroke. He had a stroke a few months back, right? So
yeah, and
he's still not.
He says he's okay, but I watched that debate, and I don't know if he was just nervous. He looked nervous, but good Lord, I mean, I'm not the best orator in the world, but I could have done a better job than that. Scary. Yeah, it's very, very scary. You know, that people just turn a blind eye. Just, you know, I don't see any of this. All I see is this. That's not mean nothing. This is what I'm saying. It's crazy.
You look at the other states where they reelected Democrats that should have been taken over by a Republican. It's like, what are these people thinking? And actually, you know what it is? There's people out there, they hate Trump so much, anybody associated with Trump, that they will be willing to vote for the devil who will take everything and rake them in their ass just so they will.
I said that today. I said people would vote for the fucking devil before they let a Trump supporter in. Yeah.
There are, you know, there's, I think there's a pretty reasonable argument that people didn't vote for Biden. They voted against Trump. And a lot of my liberal friends are like, Biden's the single worst candidate I've ever seen in my life.
But I don't want Trump.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's.
Yeah, that brings us to
convoluted logic. Good boy. Just don't vote, motherfucker. Okay, like, stay out of it then. Just stay out of it.
That brings us to a paradox. Well, you're right? They should just stay out of it here. But here's what the problem is: the left keeps brainwashing them, like they're doing right now, saying, if the Republicans take office, you guys will be enslaved. Your children will be in chains. Women will lose all their rights. I want to know, what rights are they talking about that they're going to lose? What rights are in jeopardy? What, to murder an unborn baby? That right? That's not a right, right? So outside of that, what right are we talking about? And so it's this whole fear-mongering thing.
There might be some weird manifestation of fascism where private corporations get in bed with the government and make you take a private product that you don't want, like a vaccine.
Exactly.
But, you know, that never happened.
No, exactly, right?
Dude, come on now.
Exactly. You saw that. You saw the thing that came out from Europe where they had that the Inquisition with Pfizer. And Pfizer came out and admitted, we never really tested it. We didn't know if it would.
We never even tested to see if it stopped.
Yeah, we didn't know if it would stop the spread. But that's what we said. We said it'll stop the spread. You'll never get it again. And no, we really didn't know.
See that leak from the Department of you see that leak from the Department of Homeland Security on October 31st about how they were working directly with Facebook, Twitter. They had their own portals on the back ends of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, and they actually even at their request had SNL. I think the quote is make a mockery of those who question the vaccine. I mean, direct violation of everyone's saying they're a private company. No, they were literally in bed, and that's kind of why they're all shitting their pants, is because now Elon's going through all those back-end portals on Twitter. They mean the literal definition of fascism, but don't vote for Trump because he's a fascist. Fuck if I know. Ultimately,
Facebook is taking a face plant also, man.
It's like a 900 billion.
I hope it goes down in flames, man. I don't give a shit about Facebook. Although I use it for my own marketing agenda. Outside of that, I hope it just gets obliterated. Man.
I have no faith in any of that. I've been banned from every fucking platform. Not even for interviewing doctors. You'd think I'd get banned for having you guys on, but that's not even that. I get banned for having on like Dr. McCullough. Hey, I say that with love, but no, I
got blown out of Facebook 3 times. Yeah, my official Joe Teti page was taken down the day after I made this comment verbatim. Hey guys, has anybody seen the comment that Coke made to their employees? Does anybody know what this means about being less white? Can somebody talk?
Shut up, whitey.
The next day it was done.
Yeah. So
Man, what's going on?
in light of all these conversations, yeah, I wonder why people are reaching out to y'all to get training. Huh.
Yeah.
I
And
wonder.
Tom, I wasn't even making a comment. I was just saying, hey,
I know.
did anybody see this? Can anybody, you know,
So
elaborate on it? Where is this coming from?
what I'm saying is that in the wake of this sludge that is circulating through the system of this nation, it certainly makes sense that those two guys with super high IQs, the smartest guys in the room, go, you know what? It might be time to learn survival skills. I think that is my plug for y'all's training, is see how fucked up everything is, figure
Yeah.
out how to take care of yourself and your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that,
Cool.
gentlemen,
Yes, sir.
let's wrap this one up. Both y'all's books, American Badass, Lone Operator, will be in the description, as well as I'll put in the links to y'all's training courses, your Instagrams, your Twitters, all that good shit.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
Cool.
And as always, guys, I love doing it. Joe,
Thanks,
don't be a stranger, man. Dale's on
Yeah.
here all the time. You got to join us.
It's cool.
And
I'm just getting shy in my old age, man. You know,
yeah. Well, maybe my
dude, I'm
creep.
digging that look, Tom. I'm telling you, I'm digging it. It's really, you know what it is? It's different. It's different.
Yeah, it's
Seriously, man. I'm digging it. That's really cool.
I like it. It's my
Stick with it, man.
it's
Stick
my
with it.
1980s roller rink. It's that's my fallback. Me and John Fetterman are gonna open an underage roller rink.
Bless your heart, man.
Yeah.
But
do you have one of these?
oh, pink flamingo. No, I fucking
what the
need that.
fuck,
I want
man?
I want a neon sign of Dale's mustache. That's what I want. I just want the mustache back there on the wall. I
There you
might
go.
get that made. Just Dale's mustache. 91 confirmed kills, mustache alone.
That's funny.
Joe Teti, Dale Comstock.
Thank
Let's
you,
wrap this
sir.
up. My brothers, I love you. Thank you so much for
Peace.
coming
Thanks,
on,
Tom.
guys. Take care. God
See you,
bless.
Dale.
God bless.